Today I'll be covering something on compensation framework and general terminology what we have um, in advanced compensation. I think eligibility rules, will be part of this session. But I think eligibility rules when we have created our core compensation, we have created multiple eligibility rules. I think that could be the same, but I think we'll be creating one or more eligibility rules. But the same steps what we have created will be the same, and we'll see how these rules can be utilized in our further sessions with merit plans and other things and all. So we'll just start with compensation framework today and discuss something on the terminologies that we have in regards to advanced compensation. If you're part of compensation team, and if you're a compensation administrator or compensation partner or auditor, so you'll have a kind of responsibility to perform core compensation and advanced compensation configurations to deploy those things into workday environment. And once you deploy, you'll continue to maintain the workday compensation structure. So a strong understanding of how compensation is designed and managed is actually required here. So the compensation structure is actually broken into two components. One is core compensation. The other one is advanced compensation. So core compensation, whatever we have seen, grades, grade profiles, eligibility rules, packages, and defining compensation plans and all will be part of core compensation. And advanced compensation will include merit, bonus, stock plans, as well as their related process. Okay, so that you'll be seeing in advanced compensation there are two structures, two kind of breakouts in compensation. One is core compensation, the other one is advanced compensation. Okay, and when you talk specifically about advanced compensation. Okay, so compensation generally in Workday, which is typically used to track the compensation at both enterprise wide and also individual worker level. So at organization level, you'll be able to track all the compensation review process. You'll be assigning compensation pools to individual manager, whatever as part of review process, whatever compensation range that they wanted to allot to employees between the pool that they are assigned with. So they'll be taking a decision on that one. And also at individual worker level, they can actually take decision related to compensation. So workday compensation is broken into, as I said, the core and advanced, and the overall compensation structure that consists of compensation grades, plans, which are actually grouped together to make a compensation package. And advanced compensation is typically it encompasses all the configuration and the processing of stocks, bonus, and merit plans. And so to just give you a kind of a brief flow chart of a compensation package, the structure and how it can be built. Grades, grade profiles, similarly plans, and from here we'll be getting into compensation elements, where you'll be seeing something related to advanced compensation, like compensation matrix. We'll be discussing in detail about these components. What is compensation matrix? This is actually the first step of advanced compensation. And waiting periods, So have you heard anything compensation matrix, waiting periods, and time proration? Have you heard these terms in your current responsibility?
I think I have heard waiting period. I have heard time proration, right? Compensation
Okay.
matrix, is it same as performance matrix that, for example, ratings, if you get met exceed, is that the same or different?
No, no, no.
Okay.
Compensation matrix is generally used by stock, bonus, and merit plans to determine an employee pay increase based on, So what you said will actually, partially it will relate, but it will not, relate complete, compensation, but it will relate to stock, bonus, and market merit plans. Depends upon the employee performance rating, retention rating, eligibility rule, salary range, and other criteria. So all these things will be part of the compensation matrix actually.
Okay, okay. So it includes basically performance management. That's what you're telling me.
Yeah, in one of the one of the part I can say, even
Okay.
performance rating will also include, and also retention rating, and the eligibility rule, salary range quartile, and other criterias based on your business needs actually. So
Mm,
it's mixture of these things which are used in stock, bonus, and merit plans actually.
okay. Okay.
And the time proration and company funding scorecard. All these are components of advanced compensation plan, modify scorecard,
Mhm.
and rounding rule. All these are waiting period, compensation matrix, time proration, funding scorecard, modified scorecard, and rounding rules are actually elements of advanced compensation actually. Okay, so we'll discuss in detail about each of this component. And we'll generally talk about general terminologies that we'll be frequently hearing in advanced compensation. So, so compensation matrix, I think we just discussed. It's nothing but based on your performance rating, your this retention rating, and the eligibility rules that are defined in core compensation, and salary range, and any other criteria which are typically used in stock plan, bonus plan, and merit plan actually. Okay, and similarly, waiting period. So waiting period is nothing but this is also used by bonus and merit plan to determine when employee is eligible to participate in the plan actually. So determines when employee is actually eligible is actually eligible to participate in the plan actually. So probably whatever I'll be noting here, I'll share this information to you. So instead
Okay.
of documenting step by step, I think this will work for you, right?
Yeah, yeah,
Just take it as a reference actually.
yeah. Perfect.
Yeah. So waiting period is just a kind of the kind of eligibility criteria where it specifies when employee will be eligible to participate in the plan actually.
Mm,
And similarly, when you talk about time proration, uh, there will be multiple rules here actually. So a set of rules that determines the proration of the pool, or kind of target amounts employee receive in merit uh, process, or bonus process uh, I can say a set of rules that are used to determine that is to determine when employee will be eligible to receive a merit and the bonus process actually. Okay. And scorecards, whatever, the funding scorecard and the modified scorecard, we'll typically call it as a scorecard. Scorecard is nothing but a kind of which lists goals, weights used to evaluate company performance, individual performance, or divisional performance as part of bonus process. So this actually so all this funding company funding scorecard and plan modified scorecard, which actually determines it determines or evaluates, I can say, evaluates company and individual worker performance as part of review process, or you can say merit process, as part of merit process. So scorecard is nothing but which evaluates this one, both in a company funding scorecard and plan modify scorecard. Actually, each one of one evaluates company performance, and the other one will evaluate individual worker performance as part of merit process. So when you say something, scorecard configuration, it typically define that actually evaluates the performance of company and performance of an employee as part of merit process actually. Typically you'll be doing that process when you actually going for actually merit kind of configuration part and all. And rounding rule is nothing but you'll be actually rounding the figure, actually, whatever the pool that you are assigning to organization, or the pool that you are actually defining for individual team member and all. So you'll be rounding that particular component, and get that component assigned to employee when you're actually configuring compensation part and all. So advanced compensation is actually comprises with three general components which we have discussed. One is stock plan, stock plan, bonus plan, other one is merit plan. So under stock plan, you will see a kind of compensation matrix, comp matrix. Under bonus plan, you'll see all the components like comp matrix, waiting period, scorecard, both company funding scorecard and plan modified scorecard. I'll just specify scorecard. When I say scorecard, it's nothing but both company funding scorecard and plan modified scorecard. And the last one is time proration. So bonus plan will be a mixture of all these things, proration. And when coming to merit plan, so here only you'll see comp matrix and waiting period.
Yeah, Amit, how would you define comp metric if you have to write?
Comp matrix is nothing but which we said like mixture of what you say, stock plans, merit plans, which are actually used in this, and we can determine when employees pay increase, which is based on overall performance rating of an employee and a retention rating, and the eligibility rule that we are defining in that matrix, where the salary range will be general criteria. So in that way you can define a compensation matrix. So we can say like it's nothing but a kind of which is used by stock plan, bonus plan and merit plan, which will be helpful to determine an employee's pay increase based on their overall performance rating and the retention rating, and also the eligibility rule that you will be defining actually. So in
Okay,
that way you can define actually whenever you're actually performing a kind of configuration, you'll be considering overall performance rating and retention rating of the employee, and also whatever eligibility rules that are configured in core compensation, right? So those are
okay,
all the things that will be coming under compensation matrix, but typically used by stock, bonus and merit plan, only these three plans
okay.
used by stock, merit and bonus to determine workers workers pay increase based on performance rating and eligibility rules. That's how typically go define your compensation matrix actually. And once you have your everything configured, compensation can be actually assigned to an employee individually or as part of mass event such as merit or bonus plan, and generally to establish a kind of eligibility for components of compensation, or to automate the assignments of these components to worker compensation. You can create eligibility rule. You can create one compensation eligibility rule, whatever we have created in our core compensation configuration. You can create that eligibility rule, which actually indicates which workers are actually eligible for which compensation components. So that's how we have seen, right? So when we're actually configuring core compensation, so we have defined a compensation package in which we have defined an eligibility rule. This compensation package should be applicable for specific supervisory organization or people from US with a few management levels. We've defined some kind of eligibility rules, right? Similarly, you'll be actually defining those eligibility rules. Actually, you'll be defining eligibility rules, which actually defines which workers are eligible for which compensation component. That's how you typically manage with eligibility rules. And in other way, we can say like default compensation can be associated directly to position management or job management supervisor organization. So whatever when you're actually hiring an employee, you'll be actually proposing compensation for that employee, right? So and the employee is nothing but who is part of the supervisor organization. Okay, so you're aware of this, right? So supervisor organization, when hiring an employee, will be proposing a compensation, and that compensation will be associated directly to the supervisor organization. So probably if you are compensation administrator or compensation partner, you'll be getting a kind of whenever employee is getting hired, you'll be getting a kind of notification to propose a compensation. Actually, to propose a compensation, you'll be getting a kind of notification that will allow you to configure that particular compensation package to that employee. So default compensation can be associated directly to position management or job management supervisor organization. So we can say in that way. And by using compensation eligibility rule, the compensation components can default into employee compensation during a staffing event, such as hire, transfer, uh, promotion, demotion. And whatever rules can also be used by default population eligibility rule for a merit plan and bonus plan, um, which is actually different than default target. Okay, that's how you typically manage when you're actually creating eligibility rules. And there are few things here that you need to actually understand the steps of establishing compensation structure for your company when you're actually including Workday advanced compensation. So we'll discuss in detail about those steps actually. So those steps are actually important for you when you actually go for defining a compensation structure for your company. Comp structure in organization. First one. Okay, so the first step that you'll be actually doing is you will define frequencies which are actually used in compensation payroll calculation. Okay, define frequencies which are typically used in your merit calculations and payroll calculations actually.
Uh,
Okay, and the second step that we'll be performing is we'll define a compensation element that makes the link between compensation and payroll earnings. And so the compensation and payroll are interlinked, right? Whatever that we are performing in compensation, ultimately that has to go to payroll actually, right? So that link will be actually defining here as part of a compensation structure defining actually. So um, define element define a comp element which will link comp, compensation and payroll, which will help in communicating comp data. That's how you typically the other steps that you'll be forming. You'll be creating an element where you'll be linking both the compensation and payroll. So whatever you are defining in advanced compensation, that will be flowed to your payroll actually. And once you have everything flowing to payroll, you'll be creating a compensation basis to establish one or more definitions of estimated earnings for different populations of employees. Different will be having different levels of employees, right? So each of the employee will be having each level of the employee based on the compensation policy internally. So, top level may have different earning components like performance plan stock, and restricted stock plan, and long term incentive plans based on job grades and job levels. Each of the level will be having different pay components rather than following the same kind of compensation structure throughout the organization. Most of the organizations, based on job grade, based on the level of the employee, few compensation components will be assigned to that employee. So as part of our third step, what we'll be doing, we'll be creating a compensation basis that establishes one or more definitions of estimated earnings for different populations of employees. One or more definitions of earnings for a different group of employees. So once you define the different groups for defining earnings and all, the fourth step, you'll be defining a compensation eligibility rule, which will be determining the group of employees who are eligible for different compensation plans. Actually, so this is, I think, this one we have done in regular compensation. So generally, we'll be creating an eligibility rule. That eligibility rule will be determining the groups of employees who are actually eligible for different compensation plans actually. So we have done this configuration actually. So when you're defining a compensation structure, this will also play a kind of important role in defining people in defining eligibility rules that will specify this group of employees are actually eligible to get this compensation plan kind of a rule will be defining actually. So fourth step, we'll be defining eligibility rule. Define eligibility rule that will allow you to generate compensation plan for specific group of team members. Which we'll typically do in eligibility rule. So eligibility rule is nothing but which assigns compensation package or compensation plan or compensation grade to specific group of people based on the eligibility rule that we would have defined, based on location, based on supervisor organization, based on management level. Anything we can specify in that eligibility rule that will allocate the compensation component, whether it can be plan, it can be grade, it can be package. So any of these things can be assigned to a specific group of people through eligibility rule actually. So that will be one of the important step when you're actually defining compensation structure. And once you have that eligibility rule, I think you need to have the flow whatever we discussed in regular compensation, right? Once you have the eligibility rule, you need to define the compensation grades, and then define compensation plans, and then as part of the last step, add these plans and add plans, grades, and bundle them together into compensation package. So this is all our core compensation steps will be coming into picture here. So once you define eligibility rule, I'll be specifying define comp plans and comp grades. Once I have comp grades, bundle all this together. That makes comp package. So these are all the six steps that you'll typically follow whenever you're actually building a compensation structure in your organization. If someone is asking if there is any acquisition that has happened for your company, and you need to define a new compensation structure for the new group of people who are part of the acquisition for time being. So for them, you'll be actually defining what are the frequencies that typically used for this calculations. And once you have the frequencies, you'll be defining those compensation element, which will actually uh, which that particular element will be actually the core element which will create a kind of a communication between compensation and payroll thing to pass the data that is defined in compensation through payroll, which will actually get a kind of pay deductions, pay inputs, whatever will be having as part of payroll. So all those things will be happening actually. So the second step, you will be actually combining compensation and payroll through compensation element actually, so that your data will be flown accordingly. So once you have that link created between compensation and payroll, you will be defining a compensation basis which will actually helpful for you in establishing earnings for different group of people. And then our compensation structure steps comes into picture: eligibility rule, grades, plans, and combining all this together to make a compensation package, and assign this to any of the team member as part of a merit plan, bonus plan. You'll be getting advanced compensation. So you'll be assigning this entire compensation structure to that particular group of team members or individual employee, or specific member of that particular organization. So you'll be assigning this entire compensation structure once you're ready to configure to employee profile while hiring actually. That's how typically follow actually. And other than these conceptual things, whatever we've discussed so far, or like compensation matrix or time period, time proration, and scorecards. Other than these conceptual things, there are few basic terminologies actually. So whenever you actually get certain skills in advanced compensation area, so mostly you'll be talking with these terminologies in advanced compensation language. One is, so if you're aware of this one, you should be able to understand what each advanced compensation component performs, and like that you'll be able to take some decision related advanced compensation. So the first one I can say, configurable grid. Sorry, configurable grid is nothing but a kind of reporting tool used by the planner, compensation administrator, or HR administrator, and other security groups, which makes awards and manage merit and bonus plan process actually. So it's a kind of reporting tool used by comp administrator, HR admin, and other important security groups to make awards and manage merit, bonus, and stock plans. So configurability is one of the frequently used term in advanced compensation language. What it does, and what kind of security groups that will be part of accessing this configurable grid, and the other one is controller. Have you heard these terms, Mudit, in your current support activities? What you'll be doing, controller, grid kind of things and all. Have you heard this thing?
I have heard configurable grid, not controller.
Okay.
People talk about it, but I don't think I have access for that.
Okay. So the controller is nothing but no, mostly compensation administrator will be having access to this one, which will be performing a kind of activity like controlling page in their inbox, which provide complete view of the process every time. So basically, comp administrator will be actually performing this one, where comp admin will have access to this control page in their inbox, which provides a complete view of the process, that is going on with that advanced compensation. So basically, accessible by comp admin, which provides which will provide permissions to control page in their inbox. So controller is nothing but which is accessible by comp administrator, which will provide specific permissions to control the page in their inbox, which provides complete view of the process during this advanced compensation, actually, which provides complete view of the process. And the other one is planner. So planner is one thing which you'll be frequently hearing in advanced compensation. Planner is nothing but the individual who makes actual compensation awards. Individual can be manager, compensation partner, or any other defined security group who perform this activity. Okay, person who makes comp awards could be manager, HR admin, not HR admin, comp admin. Comp admin and any other security groups, we can, and any other security group which can be configured.